This is a story that exposes the dark side of the industry. A young woman speaks out about what she witnessed at an exclusive party hosted by Diddy and Kanye West. What she describes is disturbing, and the implications could shake the industry. Let's break it down.
Whatever. So I saw what happened next and who was involved.
She recalls arriving at the party, immediately feeling something was off. Drinks were handed to her and her friend Lauren by Diddy and Kanye themselves.
And Diddy hands me a drink, Kanye hands Lauren a drink, and we're like, that's weird. Why are they serving us?
Something that seemed unusual. She hesitated. She never liked drinking, but was advised to at least hold it to avoid seeming rude. Why were they serving the drinks themselves? Was this an innocent gesture, or was there something more calculated behind it? As she pretended to sip, she noticed something unsettling. Diddy kept watching her, Kanye kept watching Lauren. It felt as if they were waiting for something.
Immediately, I felt like there was something weird because, there's always drinks. There's always, the vodka and the mixer is just like sitting on the table. But we walk in and immediately, and Diddy hands me a drink, Kanye hands Lauren a drink. And we're like, that's weird. Why are they serving us? And I don't like to drink. I don't like alcohol. I don't like the way that it makes me feel. It makes me feel sick. So hands you something to drink, even if you don't want it, just hold it and pretend because you don't want to seem rude. And I was like, okay. I noticed as I was standing there, just wondering what's going on. Diddy kept looking at me, and Kanye kept looking at Lauren, and they were exchanging glances. And I'm like, they're watching me strangely.
She became increasingly certain her drink had been tampered with. But how could she warn her friend across the room?
And I'm like, okay, let me pretend to drink. And I'm not actually doing it. And that seemed to make them happy, me pretending to join in. And immediately I'm like, there's something in this drink. There's something in this drink. And I didn't know what to do. And I my manager was across the room, but close enough, but not next to me, so I couldn't whisper to her. But I wanted to tell her, I'm like, hey, don't drink this. There's something wrong with this. But I couldn't. So I reached for my phone and I start to type.
When she tried to text a warning, Kanye snatched the phone. No need to text anyone. We're having a party, he said, before placing the phone out of reach. Panic set in. Imagine being in this situation, isolated, unable to communicate, and realizing you might be in danger. This was not a normal party.
And Kanye takes the phone out of my hands and he's like, who are you texting? You don't need to text anyone. We're having a party. And I was like, okay. And he puts it on one of the speakers. And I'm like...
She watched in horror as her manager took 2 sips and almost instantly changed. She started talking loudly, making jokes, something completely out of character. It was clear. The drinks were laced.
My manager take a sip. And I'm like, fuck. Now what do I do? And then I see her take another sip. 2 sips out of this little vodka cranberry cup. And I'm like, oh, what do I do? 2 sips, and I watch her face flush. And all of a sudden, I look over and she's speaking really loud and making jokes. And I'm like, whoa, this isn't her. She doesn't make jokes. She's fucking terrified of people. She doesn't even talk. And I was like, it's already hitting her. 100%, I just knew that the drinks were all laced with something. And she starts almost being belligerent a little bit, but not in a crazy way, just really enjoying herself. And I'm like...
The sudden shift in behavior was alarming. This wasn't casual drinking. This was something else entirely. She tried to warn her manager, but she wasn't responding normally. Then she saw the other girls. Many had been drinking before she arrived. Who was looking out for them?
That's not her. That's not her. She doesn't even want to be here. This is weird. And all of a sudden, she dismisses the studio host. She's like, you can leave. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on?
How many of them even remembered what happened that night? The reality hit her. Most of these girls had no idea what was being done to them. She had to act fast. Realizing she was backed against a glass wall with no escape, she made a risky move. She stepped toward them. It caught them off guard, just enough to slip out the door.
And the girls file out. They go to a different studio, or they go somewhere. And I'm like, I have to do something. I have to do something. What do I do? And I go to get my phone where Kanye put it on one of the speakers. And as I'm going to get it, I turn and my manager's walking out. And I'm like, no. Where are you going? Go towards them. And I was like, oh, fucking great. The one time I asked God for help, Satan answers. Because why the did I go towards these two predators who are me? Like, why would I do that? And then all of a sudden it clicked. My back was up against the glass wall. I could not go any further back. That was the only exit. He said, go towards them. They were already drunk off their shit.
She ran, hid in another studio, and waited. She had escaped. But what about the others?
The door, and I slipped out, grabbing my clothes. And I ran across the hall, across this corridor, and I hid inside of an empty studio that was black. And I sat there for like 20, 25 minutes, just like crying, like, what the
She managed to get both of them into an Uber. Her manager didn't remember anything, but the weight of the night still sat heavy on her shoulders.
I mean, I eventually got us both out, and I got us in an Uber, and she obviously didn't remember anything because she was drugged, and I wasn't. And apart from the aspect of, you know, looking for help and they turned away, the only other thing that really me is, what about all those other girls that were there?
What about the other girls? What had happened to them? Would they ever know the truth? She decided to speak out, but instead of support, she faced backlash. People called her a liar. What do I have to gain? She asked.
I'm already seeing people being like, this is cap. What do I have to gain? Let me just ask you, what do I have to gain? I'm in a fucking farm in the middle of nowhere. I'm not in the industry anymore. I'm not filing a lawsuit, so I'm not getting paid.
This is a disturbing pattern. Victims come forward, and instead of being believed, they are ridiculed. She warns others. Stay away from the industry. Don't meet your idols. Don't attend these parties unless you have protection.
Stay out of the industry. If you have daughters, make sure to tell them that their idols they should never meet and should never go to the studio with anyone, even if you're invited there as an artist, unless you have a bodyguard with you.
These aren't isolated incidents. This is a pattern. How many more stories need to come out before something changes? She says more people will come forward. More stories will be told. The industry isn't what it seems. Now it's up to you.
I mean, the same shit happened with Cassie. As soon as she said what happened, no one believed her, and they gave her so much shit. And it wasn't until videos came out and more people stepped forward that people were like, oh, she was telling the truth. And I'm here to warn you guys that more people are going to come forward. So believe her when she's talking right now.
Do you believe her? Do you believe the others? Let us know in the comments. If you found this story disturbing, share it. More voices need to be heard. Subscribe for more deep dives into the truth.